Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we're going to talk about what may well be the most photographed event in history: the Japanese surrender on board USS Missouri on September 2nd, 1945. Now, every year Battleship New Jersey holds a Surrender Day event, usually in mid-August. This year, it's going to be August 13th, 2022. August 15th is when the Japanese said they're going to surrender, stop bombing us, please. And then September 2nd is when the Allied fleet actually sails into Tokyo Bay and they do the surrender ceremony. Well, a couple days before that they sail in, but they do the surrender ceremony on September 2nd. Took some time to get everybody there. So we are on the newly redecked surrender deck here on Battleship New Jersey. This is the spot identical to where the surrender happens on our sister ship, USS Missouri. So this year, at our World War II Day celebration, I am going to give a special talk right here on the surrender deck. You probably can't go to Hawaii this year and see the actual surrender deck, so we're going to do it right here on New Jersey's equivalent and talk about that date. Now, in a previous video, we talked about why Missouri was chosen. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into them here. There's a link in the description down below if you haven't seen that one before. Go check it out. Really interesting, the political stuff and everything going on, that why Missouri is chosen. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what that meant for the Iowa-class battleships, because the Iowa-class battleships have become absolute icons, and part of that is because they're still here where so many others are not, but part of that is because the surrender was such a well-documented event, and these ships are so iconic looking, from that beautiful length to beam ratio where they just look sleek and fast, that iconic bow that's never replicated on any other class of ship, the way the superstructure and the twin funnels are, those massive imposing guns. These ships are absolutely iconic. And why does the public even know they exist? Because of all the photographs taken of Missouri on September 2nd. So that really puts the Iowa-class battleships in the public spotlight at a time when there were dozens of other battleships out there, very well decorated battleships that had won the war. And let's face it, the Iowas had very impressive service past World War II, but it was nothing quite as iconic. I'm not arguing that because these ships were so well documented, they're reactivated repeatedly. They were definitely reactivated for a reason. I think even if, say, the surrender ceremony was held on an aircraft carrier, that you would still see the battleships reactivated in similar ways: Korea, Vietnam, the 1980s, the Gulf War. But I don't think the public would care. During the Korean War, the Iowa-class battleships saw important service, but didn't do anything special to capture the public imagination. And quite frankly, there isn't as much footage of them from that time period. In the 1960s, New Jersey's reactivation is highly publicized. And then again, during the 80s, these ships are highly publicized, and their service in the Gulf War is also heavily documented. But only because these ships were so heavily in the public eye from World War II, and particularly the surrender ceremony, when they're super well documented. Some of my favorite pictures from the surrender ceremony are taken from down low up here, looking up at the superstructure, where thousands of pairs of staring eyes were looking down. These were the sailors who served on the battleship throughout the war, and who now knew they were going to be able to go home safely. after facing the kamikaze threat off Okinawa and the impending threat of an invasion of Japan with hundreds of thousands of estimated casualties as a result. And these guys get to see the end of the war happen. And the relief on their faces, they all turn out in their dress uniforms, and they're sitting there in the hot sun, just waiting to see what happens. So there's a great picture of the proceedings happening right around here with all of the major officers lined up around the space. These deck fittings were even removed for the event, and the turret is rotated a little bit just to clear up more deck space here. And the turret itself is used as additional seating for the crew. It's just absolutely covered, even the rangefinder sticking out of the side here. By far, my absolute favorite picture of the event is taken from off of Missouri, looking at her, as wave after wave of American aircraft, and Allied, but primarily American aircraft, both the big B-29 bombers that had brought Japan to their knees and the carrier aircraft that had won the major naval battles of the war, just fly over this ship, while the other battleships of the Allied fleet are sitting in the background. You can see a King George V class battleship there, and some of the other ships that come into Tokyo Bay. And wow, if there is any other picture that sums up how that war ended, with just the massive production output that the Allies were able to make, and all of these aircraft and all of these ships sitting in the bay at the capital of the last enemy nation standing, with no enemy ships in sight or enemy aircraft in the air. If that doesn't encapsulate the total victory that these guys achieved, I don't know what other picture does. So, if you would like to join the staff of Battleship New Jersey on August 13th, 2022, we're going to have World War II reenactors on board. We may even have a special surprise with Japanese aircraft flying overhead. I'm going to be up here on the surrender deck. You can get special tickets for that. They're linked in the description below, and I'll talk about this day and why it's so important for the Iowa-class battleships. And it'll just be a good time. If you haven't been out to visit the battleship in a while, we've got some new stuff open, some new exhibits, so it's worth checking the ship out one more time. And hopefully I'll see you on the 13th. What do you think is the most iconic picture of World War II? Let us know in the comment section down below. That picture of Missouri with the planes flying overhead is great, but the Marines raising the flag on Iwo Jima, the Soviet troops over the Reichstag, the troops going ashore on D-Day, that picture taken from the Higgins boat out at the contested beach in front of them. Like, there are a lot of really great pictures that come out of this war. Which one do you think is the most significant? Let us know in the comment section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your continued support. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to donate. You can also support the museum by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about us. Thanks for watching.